The Crypt interviews in association with Mayo Leisure Point Castle Bar.
You're listening to The Crypt, and today's special guest is Simon Bamford, who is best known for playing Butterball in Hellraiser 1 and Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, and also Clive Barker's Nightbreed. So you're very welcome to the show, Simon.
Thank you very much, Rita. It's very cold in this crypt. Do you think you could turn the heating up, please?
Oh, just a tiny bit, I like it cold. Well, Simon, the first thing I want to say to you is, Hellraiser, one of the things I love about this movie is the fact that Clive brought together his friends to play the monsters. So could you talk about how all of you guys got to know each other in the first place?
Yeah, Clive, I was really lucky, actually. I was at drama school in London, and Clive was an unemployed writer who ran a fringe theatre company just round the corner. And he'd moved down from Liverpool with Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead, and got together with Oliver Parker, who's now quite a famous film producer. In fact, he's the one who's just directed the Dad's Army film, which is just coming out.
Yes.
And he came to see me in production at King Lear at drama school and asked me if I'd like to join the dog company, which is what it was called. Yeah. And so I did that for a few years, and we didn't make any money whatsoever because every time we did, it was supposed to be a profit share company, but every time we made any profit, Clive would come up with some incredible new way of spending it, some wonderful new special effect or gore that we could use in the next production. So there was never really any profit. And after a year or two, we decided we needed to kind of actually earn money, you know. So we disbanded, and then I didn't see him for a couple of years. I went off, did some bloody awful kind of pot boiler type theatre tour things, and I rang Clive after a couple of years to see how he was, and he said, I've just done a couple of screenplays for a couple of movies that were made into movies. One was Rawhead Rex, and the other one I can't remember. Both of them were completely unforgettable. No, forgettable. That's
the opposite.
Yeah, that's the one. And he was disappointed because of the way they'd been handled. And he persuaded the production company to let him write and direct the next one. And just while I was chatting to him, he said, do you want a part in it? Do you want to play a monster? And I said, yeah, okay. Thinking it would just be a tiny little kind of film that had no budget. And it was slightly bigger. We went to... he said there might be a little bit of makeup, and there was frigging tons of makeup in my character anyway. And I got invited down to Pinewood to meet Image Animation and Bob Keane, who did all the prosthetics, and they did a live cast. And then I began to realise that it had a little bit more budget. But even when we were filming it at Cricklewood Production Village, there was the idea that it wasn't really going to... Clive himself says he would just hope that somebody might actually see the film and... maybe give him another job on something else. None of us expected it to kind of to do this well and to have the longevity. It's our 30th anniversary next year, which is incredible that we're still talking about it. But it's still a novel film. There was nothing like it before, and I don't think there's really anything been like it since, because it has come out of Clive's just extraordinary imagination.
And it aged very well.
It has aged well, you know. I my nieces and nephews, who obviously were like, I'm born when it was. Oh dear, that's terrible. It makes me feel very old. They haven't had a chance to see it, and they're just getting to an age where they can see it now. Apart from the kind of 80s big hair and shoulder pads, it has aged really well. I think because it's a universal theme. It's kind of it's love, it's passion, it's sex. It's an old love story in the best sense, and I think because of that, it lasts like any good Shakespeare. The themes are there; they're current, whatever generation you're in.
Yeah.
And Clive's intelligent enough to realise that they're the stories that need to be told.
Well, as you said there, it was a very dark, erotic horror. So, like, had you been a fan of horror before getting that part?
Yeah, I'm actually quite dark and erotic myself. You haven't met me yet. You haven't met me yet, Rita.
Well, no one
Sorry. I'm not actually. I'm not dark or erotic. I haven't seen 50 Shades of Grey. Have you seen 50 Shades of Grey yet?
I have seen 50 Shades of Grey. So I do a weekly movie review, so I had no choice. I had to watch it.
Okay. There was a lovely thing somebody put on Facebook of the female Cenobite and Pinhead when 50 Shades of Grey came out, and they were on one side, and then the leads from 50 Shades of Grey on the other, and it just had the caption from Doug, amateurs. which I felt kind of captured it nicely. What was the question? It was something about eroticism.
Myself there. Oh, I was saying, like, were you into like horror before getting the part, or was it?
I was. I was. I was the kid. I was brought up in a little village in Leicestershire, Warwickshire, and I was the kid in the village who, in the local newsagent, wasn't trying to get the girly magazines from the top shelf, but was always trying to get the Fangoria magazine.
Yeah.
I think I'd seen one quite by accident, and I was just fascinated by it. And the whole kind of Americanism of horror back in the kind of 70s, 80s as well. I never dreamed that I would be in it. In fact, I think I was on the cover of it a few years ago. I was like, I feel like I made it then.
That must have been great for you.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. When you go back and tell that little boy getting the magazine that one day you'll be on the cover, that you can imagine the excitement.
Yeah, he wouldn't have believed it. He wouldn't have believed it. But it was nice. It would be nice to go back and tell him.
Well, I was like that. I was watching horrors from when I was 4, and like, I think the Cenobites were the only thing that really scared me when the wall would open and out she'd come. So I often wonder, what was it like for the 4 of you? Do you know the first time you all seen each other in costume together?
Well, it was a kind of weird one, especially for Nick and I, because we were blind inside our makeups. Yeah. So we would get... I think the first day shooting, we had a bit of time to kind of explore, and I got Doug sitting opposite me in his amazing Pinhead makeup, and they put my head on. So I said to Doug, can you tell me what the makeup is doing? Because I hadn't got a clue what it looked like, because I couldn't look in the mirror because I was blind. And I started to do these kind of little facial expressions inside of it, and I was getting nothing from him. And then he said, okay, when are you going to start? So I thought, okay, so I did bigger expressions. And he said, yeah, when you're ready, start doing something. And in the end, I was gurning inside the makeup, and it was still having no expression at all. So I realized, okay, there's not a great deal I can do with the makeup, with the makeup here. So I couldn't even see myself, let alone Doug. And then once you're in it, they super glue you inside the thing. So for Nick and I, we were kind of blind. But I mean, we'd seen some of the other things. There are lots of dead bodies hanging all over the workshops. And the engineer, I'd seen the engineer, you know, the creature that comes crawling along the walls.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool because it had animatronic eyes and these kind of claw things that the crew could kind of manipulate. But it was all very basic because it was the 80s. There was no CGI back in those days. Everything was done for real. I think one of the coolest effects was there's a scene in Hellraiser where this creature, this baby creature, Frank, grows out of the floorboards.
Yeah, that's
and
my favorite
to do that, I mean, these days it'd be so easy to do with CGI, but in those days, they had to make this thing out of wax and make it look as real as they possibly could. And then they put all these blow torches onto it and melted it, so it melted into the floorboards. And then they showed the whole thing backwards, so it seemed to come out of the floorboards. So they had to be incredibly creative to make these effects work.
But that's it. When Nicholas Vince was on the show, we were talking about this, and I was saying to him, like, you look at that now, that has aged extremely well, them effects. So if you look at the likes of the Evil Dead, and, you know, some scenes in that just looks like mushy peas falling all around the place. Do you know what I mean? Where that scene in Hellraiser always stands out to me. Yeah,
well, we did have the mushy peas on set for Hellraiser, but we ate them all, so we just had the mushy smell.
So you couldn't use them.
The Cenobites did have quite a wind problem, but they managed to they managed to edit that out. Generally, I'm sure if you listen very carefully, you could probably hear some wind. I reckon it's probably the female wind. It's that kind of like slightly higher pitch.
Female wind is slightly higher pitched. Oh, that's the best joke. Oh god, I'll have to do an experiment now and start recording just to see if it is a higher pitch. Oh god. Now, another story I heard about you was that Clive Barker got the idea for some of his short stories from a delicious batch of brownies you baked.
Now, if I tell you this story, will I still be allowed into Ireland in a few weeks' time?
They'll be waiting for you at the airport to search you.
Mind you, the body search might be fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. Let me just have a glass of wine before I... right, yes. So, Clive, this was before Hellraiser, and Clive was about to have his very first... He had a contract to have his first ever stories published. So he was really excited, obviously, as any author would be. Mm-hmm. And they were the Books of Blood. And he had a party for the launch, but some of the stories he still hadn't... I don't know if it was maybe the next set. He hadn't actually come up with the titles. No, I think it was the first. Must have been the first. Anyway, we went to a party. He'd written the stories, but he hadn't come up with the titles for the books, for the individual stories in the books. I'm really describing this badly, aren't I?
No, I'm following you.
Okay. I'm glad you are.
I had a few brownies before, come on. No, for listeners, no, I didn't. That was a joke.
So I went to this party and I took some. I was very young, I have to say. I was very, very young. I went to the party and I took some chocolate brownies that I'd made. He says, touching his nose. So I put them in a room, these special chocolate brownies. And Clive came in. He said, oh, because he's got a very sweet tooth, Clive. He said, I love chocolate brownies. I said, oh, hey, I have one. There's my special chocolate brownies. And anyway, went off, enjoyed the party, came back, and all my chocolate brownies disappeared. Oh, so I said, where are my chocolate brownies? And Clive said, oh, I'm really sorry, I ate them all. I went, you ate them all? Are you kidding me? He went, yeah, they're just chocolate brownies. I said, no, they're special chocolate brownies. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, he went to bed quite early, funnily enough. And he woke up the next day, and he said he'd had the best night's sleep he'd ever had. And he had every single name for all of the stories. My chocolate brownies had given him the names for all of his short stories.
Oh, that is a brilliant story.
Yes.
Oh my God, that is so funny. Oh, I tell you, God, I'm trying to meet up with you now at ScreamVention when you have no microphone to hear the rest of the stories. But now, I believe then that you also created your character in Nightbreed.
Yeah, I did. Well, originally, it wasn't actually me. We'd done Hellraiser one year, and then we did Hellbound the next year at Pinewood. So we started, Hellraiser was in Cricklewood Production Village, Hellbound was in Pinewood Studios, and we thought, well, Cricklewood, Pinewood, it's got to be Hollywood next. It's just kind of a natural progression. And so I knew that Nightbreed was kind of about to happen, or was going to happen, and so I was sitting at home waiting for my phone call, and it didn't seem to happen, and then I heard from Nick, and he said, oh, have you not heard? Doug and I are both doing Nightbreed. I went, oh, are you? Well, that's nice for you. I'm really pleased. As you do. So I can't remember what I did. I probably rang Clive, or I must have rang him because email didn't exist in those days. And anyway, he had cast, what's his name? Mark Almond, the singer Mark Almond.
Oh, right.
He just signed with Sony Records, and he had quite an alternative image, and he was going to play Unaka in Nightbreed, but because he just signed with Sony Records, they wanted to change his image into more of a kind of crooner, and they didn't think being in a Clive Barker horror film would kind of go along with that
the image,
that crooning image. So he pulled out just at the time that I rang, so I was given the part. So yeah, I wasn't first choice, but they'd already done all the prosthetic casting, so all the burns and all the facial stuff and all his body casting was done on Mark Almond, and then just made to fit me. So if you look at some of the still images, you can actually see the edges kind of coming away on some of the backs, but it did mean I didn't have to have a full body cast, which I think must be quite an unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
I had a face cast done last year for, I was playing Roddy McDowall in as Peter Vincent in Fright Night for a new documentary. But I hadn't had a face cast done for ages, and I'd forgotten just how strange an experience it is to have this stuff put all over your face and just two little holes left, and somebody holding your hand just to remind you that they're still there. Have you ever had it done?
Oh, I haven't. I think I'd get so claustrophobic if I had something over my face.
Yeah, it is very claustrophobic, but it's a necessary evil, and they did a lovely job of making me look like Roddy McDowall. It was really nice to have prosthetics that weren't kind of like Hellraiser or Nightbreed prosthetics, but actually to make you just look like a different person. And the coolest thing about that, I was going to start a new company, was that when I worn the prosthetics, they made me kind of look about 20 years older than I am. And we filmed for a while, and you get used to just staring in the mirror and seeing yourself 20 years older than you are. And then eventually they take it all off and you go home. And every time you pass the mirror, you look at yourself and you go, wow, you're looking really good. And you can't help it. You think, wow. So it kind of makes you appreciate it. So I thought maybe I should start a whole business of just aging people 20 years for a couple of weeks. Exactly. It makes you re-look at what you've got, because you never appreciate it at the time. You appreciate it 20 years later when you look back at what you had 20 years ago, but never at the time. And this actually makes you appreciate it at the time, which is quite a unique experience.
That's it.
But my sister said, although men might go for it, she wasn't sure that women actually would want to look 20 years older.
Well, there now on the Friday Night documentary, I'm going to come back to that in a second. Firstly, I just want to say about, you're also an award-winning theatre actor. So where would your passion lie more now? Would it be in film or theatre? Would you rather be live on stage?
It's definitely film these days. I did far more theatre than I did film. I did kind of 30 years of theatre all over the world. I was lucky enough to work with a company that toured internationally. So we worked everywhere, from kind of Pakistan to Sweden, from Romania to the Emirates, all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I loved it, but I've got it out of my system. It was kind of the acting bug for theatre I got when I was very young, and I thought I'd never use it, but I think I have lost it a little bit now. And it's time consuming. It's very repetitive. If you're in a long run of something, doing this exactly the same thing every day, day in, day out. So I've been working in the last 2 years to do much more film work, be it short films, or I did a feature film just for Christmas, just to kind of increase my knowledge of because the thing with feature films or filming generally is that the style of acting changes constantly, and you'd have to be kind of on top of that. And I was never, because a lot of the stuff I did early on was in prosthetics, I was never really aware of what I could do as an actor without all of that extra stuff, where my boundaries were. And so I've been exploring that recently.
I've just started watching Leviathan, the story of Hellraiser and Hellbound Hellraiser 2 from Dead Mouse Productions. So I think I'll be doing it in a few sittings, because it's quite long. It's 8 or 9 hours.
Yes.
I'm really enjoying this so far, and they're really
7 of that is just Well, I was going to say 7 hours of those 9 hours is just Nick Vince, to be honest. Just kind of.
Poor Nick.
Or Barbie. They both can talk for England.
Well, I don't think the
But
two of us,
Barbie
the
will
two of
probably
us aren't
be
far behind them.
Who, me?
Me and you, I'm as bad.
Yeah. I have to be honest. I do have the Leviathan. It's very aptly named because Leviathan kind of conjures up this kind of huge, great big Leviathan. And that's exactly what the documentary is. I've watched, I think, about 3 hours. I think it's 7 hours long. I've watched about half of it. So yes, I have the rest to look forward to. But it is very good. It's very, very well made.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the what they've done with the Fright Night one, because certainly the trailer was out recently, and that looks very good as well. Are they going to be there at ScreamVention? I think they are, aren't they?
I'm not sure. I think they were checking. The Gary and that was checking about coming over, so it'd be fantastic if they were. And now, for listeners who don't know what we're talking about there, about You're So Cool, Brewster, is a documentary Dead Mouse Productions are doing now after Leviathan, all about Fright Night, one of my favourite horrors ever. Now, you have a part in that. You talked a little bit about it earlier. You're Peter Vincent. It is unbelievable how much you're like him. I could not believe it when I seen the pictures. It was fantastic.
We had so much fun filming it. So much fun. And it was really interesting playing somebody real. I'd never done that before. So studying Roddy McDowall, and he had incredibly good diction.
Yeah.
By the time we got to filming it, I'd done so much research. I had so much respect for the man. He knew exactly. He was a Hollywood star of the highest order, of the old kind, and had done so much work. Really knew what he was about and how to handle the camera. He knew his craft exceptionally well. I'm very in awe of him.
Oh, he was a fantastic actor. Well, it really got me because I watched the trailer and they just give the littlest clip of you at the end, turning around saying, "Peter, I can't wait to see it." Okay, when do they think that's going to be out?
I've no idea. Later, all I know is later this year. I think they're quite. I would think probably around about the Halloween, so probably the autumn time.
Yeah,
but so the great thing is we actually got they got more funding as we were doing it, so they decided to add to it, because Peter Vincent was a fictional horror TV presenter who was who in his fictional earlier career had been a horror actor. They decided to make, I think, 4 trailers for the fictional films that he never made but was supposed to have made. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
it is quite complicated.
Gary's coming on the show this month from Dead Mouse Productions, so we'll get all the info when it'll be out and all that then. I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be brilliant, I think. It will be 7 or 8 hours long. I
think it will, yeah.
Just prepare myself.
I think it's very long at the moment. And you need to ask him about how they got the name Dead Mouse Productions.
Right, cool. Yeah, because I had him on before, actually. I never asked him that because we went off on a tangent about all the horror movies we watched when we were kids. So he's a really nice guy. He's really, really nice.
He is.
Well, hopefully, there will be at ScreamVention. And for anybody who doesn't know, ScreamVention is Ireland's first horror convention, taking place the last weekend of February, and it comes to us from O'Brien Event Management. And Simon, you're going to be there with your fellow Cenobites. I believe this is your first trip to Dublin.
It is my first trip to Dublin. It's my second trip to Ireland. But the first time was I went on a lovely holiday on the west coast.
And whereabouts?
But yes, I have.
That's where we
Such
are now.
Amazing. Everybody who I say, when I mention that, whereabouts?
I'm in country.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's
it was
where
in the
I'm
mountains.
interviewing you from. I'm from Mayo.
County Mayo.
County Mayo.
I can't remember. It was a few years ago.
You must have had a great time.
Well,
I can't remember where you were.
And
were you drinking Guinness and eating brownies?
I was. I wasn't eating the brownies. I was drinking the Guinness and drinking the chasers of the Irish whiskies.
Oh, Christ.
And it was very, very cold.
Yeah.
It was March, and it was so cold. And I was smoking at the time, and they just brought in the
ban.
How old it was, the thing that you couldn't smoke in pubs.
Yeah.
And so we were standing outside in the freezing cold. And that's all I remember. But everybody when I mention I'm coming to Dublin, they say, oh, you'll have such a wonderful time.
You will.
So, yeah.
You will. It's going to be great.
I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the great things, one of the great legacies from Hellraiser is that we get to go to these amazing conventions all over the world.
Yeah.
For something that we did 30 years ago. We did one in Antwerp, and we get to meet kind of up with all these other actors, and I ended up going clubbing with one of the actors from Game of Thrones. It was this is cool. Finn Jones, do you know Finn Jones? You probably don't.
No, I have. Is he from Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's still sitting on my computer waiting for me to start watching.
Get the whole series?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You're in for a thrill.
Yeah, everybody's raving about it, so I have to. I'm way behind everybody else now. Do you know, there's so many good TV shows now. It's just hard to watch them all. There's so many good ones on the go.
You're completely right. I've got one of these boxes like most people have, but it's always at kind of 90%. I'm always having to go and delete stuff just to kind of make space for the new stuff coming along. The days when I grew up where there was never anything to watch are completely gone. There's actually too much to watch now.
I know. Because do you remember when you were small and you'd get the TV times and you'd be checking what movies are on for the week because do you know, they weren't so accessible as they are now. You just sit down the laptop, watch any film under the sun. Back then, you had to wait, or you could go to the video shop and you'd want to rent out, say now, Hellraiser, and it's gone out, and you have to put your name down, and you could be waiting 2-3 weeks before you'd get to see Hellraiser. Oh,
that's right.
Such different times. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. You could just see anything. But the flip side of that is I don't have time to watch that many movies because I'm trying to keep up with all the TV series that I'm watching.
But that's the new thing now.
And I don't want to delete them.
Till you get them all
TV has come on an awfully long way, hasn't it?
And
TV used to be pretty rubbish, to be honest.
And do you know the reason I think that is as well is because all the new ideas are coming out in TV shows. Movies, you're getting so many remakes, do you know, all the time, where all these new, fresh ideas are coming from the TV shows. So that's everybody's gone box set mad now.
You're right. They're taking more risks, which none of the big kind of studio execs are doing. It's the only new stuff you see coming into the cinema are kind of independent films.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you're absolutely right. Plus, I think they spend more money on TV. I think they've realised with the global market, if you invest the money in a really good TV series, then the chances are you can really make a lot of money back.
That's it, and then you've all.
So it's all like as everything is. It's all to do with commerce.
And all the merchandise then, and you know.
So yeah, good on them.
You make it at every end.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Going back to the conventions, I have to ask you, what would be your weirdest experience you've had at a convention? Oh God, I'll probably have to censor this. Go on.
Well, it kind of comes. It kind of goes all the way back to the brownies. Funnily enough, I've been. I'm not. You might well have to censor this. What kind of? When does this show go out?
Well, it goes out at different times. It goes out on 4 different stations. So some are early in the day and some are in the evening. So
okay.
So
well,
keep it clean.
Oh, it's clean, but it's similar to the brownies.
Okay, go on. Talk in code so children don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yes. So yes, I was at a convention in the States, and it was great. It was a huge convention. We'd all been out for a big meal together. So sitting at this table was the four of us from Hellraiser. There was several of the Jasons from Halloween. There was Freddy Krueger. And we were all having this lovely meal out together. And then we got back to the hotel. And it's kind of slightly surreal when you get back to the hotel, because usually the hotel is where the convention is. And especially in America, if you've been in a movie, you're a little bit like royalty over there, because they don't have a royal family. Hollywood is their royal family. Yeah. So you get treated exceptionally well. So we walked in, and everybody kind of mugs you. Goes, "Oh, Mr. Bamford," and whoever else is there, Mr. England, and everybody else. Anyway, so it was very nice. And then we went to the bar like we do. And Barbie and I have a habit of drinking dry martinis whenever we meet up at convention. So we had a few dry martinis, and then one of the fans said, "Oh, do you smoke?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Oh, do you want to come outside then?" So I did. And when I came back in, I was a little bit worse for wear, shall we say, and feeling a little bit paranoid. I can't think why, and that was made really a hell of a lot worse by absolute strangers coming up to me and going, "Mr. Bamford, it's very nice to see you. Let me shake your hand." And I really couldn't cope with it. So poor old Barbie, I said to her, "Barbie, I need to go to bed. I need to go to bed now. I need to go to my room." So poor old Barbie had to kind of take me up in the lift, and somebody tried to hit on me in the lift, and
oh my God! Are you sure it was somebody actually there? Are we imagining it?
I was a little inebriated, I think it would be true to say. No, Barbie managed to get me back to my room, and I learnt a big life lesson about not doing that.
Yes, not.
Although we still drink the dry martinis. We have a bit of an argument about whether Barbie says dry martini, and Barbie and Doug both drink dry martinis, and so that side of the pinhead and the female Cenobite are into vodka martinis, whereas I am into a gin-based martini.
Gin makes you
martini, and we have an ongoing argument about which is actually the authentic martini. Sadly, and I'm rather ashamed to say that Chatterer is a teetotal, so we're drinking our martinis being very Bond-like, and Chatterer is usually ordering a Shirley Temple, which I think is the most embarrassing thing for a Cenobite to be drinking. A Shirley Temple? Really?
Oh, God. Oh,
That's not horror icon, is it?
I can just imagine what this Gravedigger bus is going to be like with all the E on it. Crazy. Huh?
We're going on a horror tour, aren't we? A ghost trip.
Yeah, on the Friday night. Oh, can't wait. I'm bringing me a bottle of Prosecco, and I'll bring the Prosecco, you bring the brownies, and we'll have a great time.
It's a deal.
Well, listen, before I let you go, have you any projects you'd like to give mention to?
Yes, I'm just finished working on a film called, it's not horror, but it's a film called Starfish, and that was a true story based on a family who endured the most horrendous events back in the 1999. It stars Tom Riley, who was in Da Vinci's Demons, playing Da Vinci, and Golden Globe winner Joanne Froggatt from Downton Abbey. Yes, I also got to work with the lovely Michelle Dutrice, who was playing Joanne Froggatt's mum, and Michelle, of course, was in Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. It's a very moving story. It's very uplifting. It's going to Cannes in May, and then a cinema release, I don't know yet, but I assume will be end of the summer, beginning of the autumn, but certainly one to look out for. It's a wonderful story, and it's called Starfish. And then I'm starting work on a short film shortly after this called Confidence, which we're filming in Liverpool. And so, yes, I'm learning loads of dialogue for that.
Fantastic. And is there a Facebook page for...
Yes, you can look me up on IMDb. under Simon Bamford. You can look Starfish up under IMDb. And I have got a Facebook page. I haven't got a clue what the name is. I'm also on Twitter at Simon Bamford. I don't know. Simon.Bamford.
That's your surname, Bamford.
You'll find me. If you want to. If you're that sad, you want to look me up, then go ahead, look me up.
Is your Facebook page quite open? You know, some people only add friends and then have a likes page. Is yours quite open for people?
No, mine's wide open. Yeah, so if anybody wants to post any brownie recipes, that would be lovely.
Oh Christ, I don't think I've ever laughed so much during an interview in my life. And I have a witch's cackle laugh, so I will never forgive you now for this.
Well, do you have a cauldron?
I do, in my crypt.
Of course.
And
Silly me, here we are.
My broom parked up outside.
I'm glad you put the heating up anyway. It's got a lot warmer down here. Or maybe that's just me flushing.
Oh, I tell you. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Simon. It's been so much fun and cannot wait to meet you and the rest of the gang at ScreamVention.
Thank you so much for having me, Rita. It's been a blast. I'm looking forward to meeting you, Rita, and everybody else at the Red Cow Moran Hotel, somewhere near Dublin.
The Crypt interviews in association with Mayo Leisure Point Castle Bar.